welcome to this wonderful tradition at Eastwood. Now, for those of you that this may be your first time here, I'll tell you what I know about this, and it may not be true, but that's the great thing about churches. Stories start, and they just take on a life of their own. So, what I heard was that Gina Waters, who is sitting right there, was really upset because of the fact that, well, she wasn't really upset. She was just kind of church upset about the fact that during Advent, we don't sing Christmas songs because it's not the season of Christmas. And yet there are all of these wonderful Christmas carols that you get just a couple Sundays to sing. So, in order to appease the not really upset Gina Waters, and to have something really fun, this wonderful Songs and Stories was created. So we sing the great songs of Christmas, and we share the stories that we all have from our families, be they happy, sad, poignant, whatever. So I'm so happy that we have 4 storytellers tonight. And but before we launch into our stories, we have another one of those wonderful Christmas hymns that we don't get to sing often enough. Number 144, O Little Town of Bethlehem. like to welcome our first storyteller tonight, Blake Matthews, who's just driven in from Iowa. Happy to have you here. And his story is the Christmas tree.
Thank you. I might get a little teary-eyed saying this, and I apologize in advance. To tell you the Christmas tradition that I hold close to my heart, we have to back up a little bit to Thanksgiving. My mom's birthday often fell on Thanksgiving, so my dad every year would take her to pick out her Christmas tree. Not one from a lot or a store. No, we lived about 10 minutes from an actual Christmas tree farm. So while my siblings would Black Friday shop, they would come and drop my nieces and nephews off with us, and we would caravan down to the farm. And when I say that, we literally drove 3 cars down there at one point in time because there were so many of us. The farm wasn't massive, less than an acre with just one big red barn. We'd walk through the rows with that chill of the winter air and the smell of those big trees and the thermos of apple cider in my hands keeping me warm. We'd search up and down those rows for that perfect tree. It had to be at least 6 feet tall, big and round, and sometimes I'd hear my dad mutter a 1 or a 2 as we walked through the rows. So one year I asked him, "Why do you do that?" He said, "In a year or 2, that one will be the one, but it just needs a little bit more time." After much debate on which one was the perfect tree, we would show our mom the pics that we had. She was the one who had to decide, you know? So as the kids held their breath, hoping that they had found the tree, because the one who won got to be the one to put the star on the tree. My brother would raise him up as he was the only one that was over 6 foot and could rip that high, so they could put that star on the tree. So once my mom had picked the tree and the cheers of victory had settled, my dad would chop the tree down. The kids took that as the opportunity to show off how strong they were and show those muscles. My dad would walk them through and guide them along the process to cut it down, hand in hand with them, step by step. And as the tree fell and the roar of timber settled throughout the farm, it was one of the most pleasant memories of my childhood. After we loaded up the tree, which was the easy part, much easier than loading the 6 to 8 kids that were with us, we take it home and spend the rest of the afternoon stringing up the lights and pulling ornaments from the boxes and listening to the stories of each one. The Ninja Turtle one that my brother loved, the mouse that my mom cherished, the ones that my granny had left my dad. Once they were all put on the tree and the winner was risen to place the star, we sat around with hot chocolate and homemade pizzas with the light of that tree shining off the TV and the sound of Grandma getting run over by a reindeer playing on it. Every year, this is how we started our Christmas season. And I may not have this tradition anymore, but I will hold those memories forever. Thank you.
There's something just magical. I hate when people use that about Christmas, but it seems that way, about how we're so many memories that stick with us through life. There's something very sticky about the season, about the way the things that we smell, the things that we taste, the way the air feels. I remember a friend of mine from South Africa, when I was in college, it was in the summer, we were sitting outside and it was hotter than blue blazes, and he said, this reminds me so much of Christmas. And I thought, well, I guess it's different. So now Mary Ann Waters is going to bring with us the many traditions of her family.
So when I think of Christmas, I think of the traditions I have with my family. Even through all these years, most of our traditions have remained constant, and they give me a sense of nostalgia and warmth when it's time to put up the tree again. So I just want to share with you a few of the Christmas traditions I have in the different parts of my family. Now, I do want to mention, I have never spent a Christmas at home. Every year, I go to my dad's family in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then to my mom's family in Watkinsville, Georgia, which is outside of Athens, Georgia. That may not seem like the typical Christmas to some, but it's how I've celebrated and gotten to be with my family every year. So speaking of Christmas trees, something I've especially come to enjoy these past few years is decorating the tree. I think my love for it emerged when we started decorating for Christmas before heading out of town for Thanksgiving one year in 2020. For me, 2020 was rough, as it was for many, many people. Now, I don't want to dwell on it, but I mean to mention it because it led to my excitement for Christmas. I was the happiest I had been in a while because it had always been my favorite time of year, but it especially meant so much to me that year to celebrate it after everything I had been through. I had always decorated the tree for Christmas, but that year, I was ecstatic to decorate the tree and ended up doing it all by myself while my mom decorated the inside of the rest of the house and my dad decorated the outside. Since then, I've loved decorating our tree and putting up all my favorite ornaments in their place. There's so many memories that flow into my mind when I look at our ornaments that we've had for years, and it makes me glad that I get to decorate our tree every year. A special tradition that my mom's side of the family has is called Progressive Dinner. Now, it's important for me to mention that all of my mom's family lives in the same small town of Watkinsville, Georgia, because Progressive Dinner is where we all get together and go from house to house of each of the family members, and each house has good food ready to eat. I got to experience it for the first time last year because it was the first time we went to Georgia first instead of Chattanooga. We usually go to Chattanooga before Christmas Eve to celebrate Christmas, and then go to Georgia on Christmas Eve. So for Progressive Dinner, we got to have a bunch of different foods, and we got to just be together as a family. And it's also really fun to be able to visit everyone's houses. Christmas Eve is another time we congregate together and enjoy food together, and it's like having a second and third Thanksgiving. We also give and receive gifts we drew names for, which is always fun. Now, that's just my family on my mom's side. We also celebrate Christmas on my mom's dad's side of the family in Georgia, and we exchange gifts, eat food, and just be together. But one thing that always sticks out of my mind when I think of this side of the family is my great Aunt Laverne's cookies. They are the best cookies I have ever had, but the cookie itself is just a simple sugar cookie with icing. I think the reason I love it so much is because it's a staple in my family's Christmas celebration, so I know it's Christmas when I taste those cookies. I even started making them for other people here at home, so if you're interested, let me know. All I can say is I love my family in Georgia, and I have a really good time with them. And we also have a really good time with my dad's family in Chattanooga, but we don't always celebrate in Chattanooga. A tradition I have with my dad's side of the family is that every other year, we go to the beach for Christmas. Since my dad's family isn't always all in one place, this Christmas trip is the best time for all of us to visit. We have a lot of fun just hanging out together, going out for seafood, because we're in Florida, and enjoying a sunset on the beach, or sunrise, depending on where we are. When we aren't at the beach, we celebrate Christmas with the family I have in Chattanooga. Up until recently, we would go to my Gram's house, and me and my cousins would make her coffee cakes and decorate Christmas cookies. And if you couldn't tell already, food is my family's love language. However, when my Grams passed away last year, it made me miss those traditions and the time I got to spend with her. But we still try to carry on those traditions with the other family I have in Chattanooga and honor her memory. Another tradition my cousin has to honor my Grams is to take a wreath to her grave. It started with my cousin bringing a wreath to my grandpa's grave, and now he brings wreaths to both of them, which I think is really sweet. We all love my Grams, and I think we'll always miss her at Christmas time, but we have so many traditions and stories to remember her by. These are just some of the traditions my family has. If I were to share all of them, I think we'd be here all night. But regardless, I'm glad I got to give you all a look at what Christmas looks like in my family.
Well, Mary Ann, I think you have opened yourself up now to preparing large quantities of your sugar cookies. Made us all want those. There is something about food that conjures memories, that brings things to life. We as disciples know that, in that we gather at table every single time we meet. And now Steve Walls will bring us a story of the dilemma of a delicious Christmas turkey.
When I was thinking about what kind of story I might tell, I did a little bit of reading, as I do anyway, but I came across an ad for a book entitled Storyteller Tactics. It claims to show you how to tell a great story. Well, I didn't read the book. So here's my story. I've got a lot of memories. This is a special memory, not necessarily a tradition, although eating has always been a tradition in my family too. The Waters aren't alone in that. I have many memories of my childhood, many good memories of my childhood, very few bad ones. I always get a happy feeling this time of year. I guess it's because I associate Christmas holidays, or the winter break as they call it now, some people associate this time of year with getting a couple of weeks off from school. I went to school for 16 years straight and then taught school for 8 years, so I've got a lot of school memories, and that holiday period is one of my most pleasant memories because get a little time off. It was always a good family time, and I look forward to seeing relatives that I didn't get to see too often. My dad was the oldest of 10 children, and his parents lived just down the road from us. My mom was the youngest of 12, and several of her siblings lived nearby as well. So a lot of family traditions, a lot of opportunities for them anyway. I remember particularly the good food, the great food that showed up at our house during the Christmas season. In those days, fruits and nuts and candy were not staples in our house. So I always looked forward to some more exotic food during the holidays. Of course, we had a big garden and lots of fresh vegetables in the summer, and then in the winter we had canned vegetables from the garden. We also had pigs, chickens, cattle on the farm, so we ate pretty well, but nothing really fancy. But for 3 years when I don't even know exactly how old I was, probably 5 or 6, if I can remember that far back. But the good thing is about remembering this particular meal is, it's not a good thing, it's kind of bittersweet, but everybody else who was at that meal isn't with us anymore, so they can't correct me. For 3 years, my dad tried raising turkeys as a cash crop. It was something new. So that was in addition to all the other livestock that I've already told you about and row crops that we had on the farm. I don't remember this exactly, but I did speak with my sister, who is still with us, and she told me that the first year he had 1,000 turkeys, the next year 2,000. Those 2 years went pretty well. He was making a little money, so third year he went with 3,000. Prices didn't hold up too well, though, and when he sold those that year, he said he barely had enough to cover the feed bill. So much for agriculture. There was some concern that we might not even have enough to buy Christmas presents, or that they might not have enough to buy Christmas presents for the kids. Back to the turkeys, they would be delivered in the spring as pullets. For those of you who are not familiar with turkey terminology, that's a young turkey. And we would put them in brooding houses, really just heat lamps, until the weather warmed up enough and they were strong enough to brave the elements outside. Of course, the birds started growing and soon wouldn't fit in the brooding houses anyway. I won't bore you with all the day-to-day details about raising turkeys, but along with the other livestock we had on the farm, it was a lot of work. I got to admit, though, I was the baby of the family, so I mostly just watched other people work. That continues. So harvest time came around a week or two before Thanksgiving, and just coincidentally, it was about Thanksgiving. A big truck would show up along with several people who caught and caged the turkeys and loaded them on a truck. That last year that we raised turkeys, there was one bird that was well hidden during the pickup and got missed. Smart turkey. It stayed hidden for a while, and then it showed up at the house a couple of days after the trucks left with all the other turkeys. And during that time, between the time they got picked up and Christmas, this bird became somewhat of a pet. But after a week or so, it just stopped showing up. It just disappeared. We kids were heartbroken, but we had a lot of other things going on, so we forgot about it pretty soon. We just assumed that it had gotten attacked by a bobcat or some wild animal. Anyway, one day my Aunt Eunice and Uncle John came by to visit, and they invited us to come to their house on Christmas Eve for dinner. Now, I was real excited about that because I knew my Aunt Eunice was a good cook. And we had a really great time. We got to visit a lot. My mom got to visit with her sister, and they had a good time preparing a delicious meal. It was really delicious. We had all kinds of stuff. Ambrosia, my favorite thing. We had all kinds of vegetables, and there was some great turkey and dressing, followed by some amazing desserts. Well, I fell asleep after I got my belly full, and I woke up the next morning in my bed at home. A few days later, my brother and I were just talking about what a great meal we'd had the day or two before, and we suddenly realized why our pet turkey had gone missing. Well, we never could prove it, but we had our suspicions. Merry Christmas.
so many stories of remembering. And when I think about the Christmas tree farm and the sweet present for your mother's birthday, all of the various meals and the progressive dinner, and now the visits to the grave, and those who are no longer here to correct you about this story. It's in that remembering that we remember, we repopulate our lives. And now we have all become part of your story that you have shared with us. The story grows and becomes so much more. And thank you for bringing those to us. Our final story tonight is from Ariana Evans, one of our newest members of our church. And it is her favorite memory of her grandparents' church.
Advent has always been my favorite season of the church calendar. Several years ago, when we were looking for a new church just before COVID, I declared to my husband that we would be somewhere for Advent. It was too important to me, and that's how we found our way to Eastwood, a place that has actually always reminded me of my grandparents' church back in Longview, Texas. For those of you who don't know a lot about me yet, I grew up in the piney woods of East Texas with my very large family. My parents had 7 kids, and I am the third. We lived about 10 miles outside the city limits on part of my grandfather's land. My mother had no living family, and so our holidays revolved around my father's parents and his 4 brothers, with my tiny 4'11" grandmother as the hub of the wheel around which everything spun. When Christmas came around, my grandparents' house was the epicenter of activity, bustling with my uncles, their wives and husbands, and their children, as well as a fairly large crowd of whatever stranded college students or new families in the church happened to be in need of a place to eat that year. It was usually a group of about 30 to 40 people. In each space in the house, something was happening. In one room, there'd be a few people playing instruments. In another room, a group was engaged in deep theological or political discussions. In another room, my favorite rowdy uncle would be entertaining a gaggle of cousins with jokes or Christmas carol charades. In the guest room, a baby or toddler would be attempting to nap. And outside, in the never very cold East Texas afternoon, there would be a rousing game of kick the can, or baseball, or someone fishing in the flat-bottom John boat, or taking a walk around the lake. And last but not least, you could always find, ensconced in the corner of the den nearest the fireplace, some poor, overwhelmed introvert trying to hide in a book. And that, as you can imagine, is quite a horde to feed. My grandmother was the head of the cooking brigade. In my memory, I can still hear her cackling laugh echoing from the kitchen, calling out to my slightly grumpy grandfather, "Bob, come lift this turkey out of the oven for me." My grandpa was in charge of heavy lifting, washing the dishes, and filling the cups with ice, because what would a Southern Christmas meal be without sweet tea? By some miracle, and with the help of other adults, an enormous spread was laid out on every countertop in the kitchen, and we would go through buffet style, heaping a taste of every good Southern dish on our plates. As you might imagine, Christmas without a large crowd and devoid of pumpkin and pecan pie feels very foreign to my soul. But my favorite memory was of the midnight services at my grandparents' church. On Christmas Eve at First Christian Church of Longview, Texas, we would gather together. With much yelling and quite a few tears, my mother would somehow stuff all 7 children into their best clothes, and the 9 of us would bustle out the door to get to the church by 11 p.m., which is not fun with small children, I have to add. Myself and usually a few of my sisters would join my grandmother and grandfather in the choir loft, and we would sing all the Christmas carols. We would sing Handel's Messiah. We would sing Ave Maria and then listen to the Christmas homily. The service ended with the lighting of candles and singing of Silent Night as we raised our paper-skirted candles at each line about the coming of the light of the world. All is calm, all is bright. I lost my grandpa this year. He was 94, and my memories of holidays are all wrapped up in him. I would look out and see the rest of my family sitting in the front left section, and their eyes would be sparkling in the candlelight. And then all would become still and quiet, and we'd listen for the chimes of midnight. As a kid, I was always in awe of how the pastor somehow timed everything just right, so it ended just in time for us to hear the chimes. Now, I learned as an adult that was the organ, but as a kid, it was like, how did he do that? And I would lean over to my grandmother and my sisters, and we would squeeze hands, whispering, "Merry Christmas," to each other by the light of our candles, as the chimes of a new Christmas morning rang out in the dark.
Again, thank you for your stories. There's such gifts that you share with us, glimpses into your lives, into what you cherish, into what has shaped you and created you. Thank you. Let us pray. For all who give you a face, Lord Jesus, by spreading your love in the world, we praise you. For all who give you hands by doing their best toward their sisters and brothers, we praise you. For all who give you a mouth by defending the weak and the oppressed, we praise you. For all who give you eyes by seeing every bit of love in the heart of man and woman, we praise you. For all who give you a heart, Lord Jesus, by preferring the poor to the rich, the weak to the strong, we praise you. For all who give you your poverty, the look of hope for your reign, we praise you. For all who reveal you simply by what they are, because they reflect your beauty in their lives, we praise you. You who are the God of 1,000 faces, yet whom nothing can reveal completely except the face of the child of Bethlehem, we pray to you. Continue in our lives the mystery of Christmas. Let your Son become flesh in us, so that we may be, for all our brothers and sisters, the revelation of your love. May we be filled with the spirit of Christmas, with the joy of Christ. And may we close tonight by singing Go Tell It on the Mountain, and then join together for chili and dessert next door.